Today's video is brought to you by Lord of Maps, makers of the greatest fantasy-style real-world maps you'll ever find. They make incredible gifts and are sure to be a conversation piece in the home. Be sure to stick around after the video for an exclusive discount code for my viewers, redeemable at lordofmaps.com. It's a name shared between two famous items, linked to the Dark Lords of Middle-earth. One would be used to beat down and kill one of the High Kings of the Noldor. The other would be used to breach the gate of Minas Tirith. But is it possible these items could be one and the same? Or are they merely two separate weapons, forever known for the fear they inspire? Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover Grond. Before we get to the battering ram of the Third Age, we'll first tell the story of its namesake. There is but one time it is mentioned in battle, which comes in the aftermath of the Dagor Bragolach. The Battle of Sudden Flame was a resounding victory for Morgoth, and seeing what he believed was, in all likelihood, the doom of the Noldor and Beleriand, the High King Fingolfin rides across the plains of Anfauglith. He comes to the very gates of Angband and challenges Morgoth to single combat. Morgoth, who is not immune to fear, accepts, for he could not refuse such a challenge in the presence of his captains. Therefore the Dark Lord came forth and fought with the High King. Then Morgoth hurled aloft Grond, the hammer of the underworld, and swung it down like a bolt of thunder. But Fingolfin sprang aside, and Grond rent a mighty pit in the earth, whence smoke and fire darted. Many times Morgoth essayed to smite him, and each time Fingolfin leaped away, as a lightning shoots from under a dark cloud, and he wounded Morgoth with 7 wounds, and 7 times Morgoth gave a cry of anguish, whereat the hosts of Angband fell upon their faces in dismay, and the cries echoed in the Northlands. But at last the king grew weary. Thrice he was crushed to his knees, and thrice arose again, and bore up his broken shield and stricken helm. But the earth was all rent and pitted about him, and he stumbled and fell backward before the feet of Morgoth. And Morgoth set his left foot upon his neck, and the weight of it was like a fallen hill. Yet with his last and desperate stroke, Fingolfin hewed the foot with Ringil, and the blood gushed forth black and smoking, and filled the pits of Grond. It is this great mace, and the fear it no doubt inspired, which Sauron had in mind when he named the most famous battering ram of the Third Age. Though he would be forced to act quicker than he wished, Sauron would have no shortage of strength in his attack on the Gondorian city of Minas Tirith. In the Battle of Pelennor Fields, as the Lord of the Nazgul leads his forces in their siege, he calls forth the battering ram of Sauron, named after the mace of Morgoth. Great engines crawled across the field, and in the midst was a huge ram, great as a forest tree, 100 feet in length, swinging on mighty chains. Long had it been forging in the dark smithies of Mordor, and its hideous head, founded of black steel, was shaped in the likeness of a ravening wolf, and on it spells of ruin lay. Grond, they named it, in memory of the hammer of the underworld of old. Great beasts drew it, orcs surrounded it, and behind walked mountain trolls to wield it. But at the gate resistance was still stout, and there the knights of Dol Amroth and the hardiest of the garrison stood at bay. Shot and dart fell thick, siege towers crashed or blazed suddenly like torches. All before the walls on either side of the gate, the ground was choked with wreck and with bodies of the slain. Yet still driven as by a madness more and more came up. Grond crawled on. Upon its housing no fire would catch, and though now and again some great beast that hauled it would go mad, and spread stamping ruin among the orcs innumerable that guarded it, their bodies were cast aside from its path, and others took their place. Grond crawled on. The drums rolled wildly. Over the hills of slain a hideous shape appeared, a horseman, tall, hooded, cloaked in black. Slowly trampling the fallen, he rode forth, heeding no longer any dart. He halted and held up a long pale sword, and as he did so, a great fear fell on all, defender and foe alike, and the hands of men drooped to their sides, and no bow sang. For a moment, all was still. The drums rolled and rattled. With a vast rush, Grond was hurled forward by huge hands. It reached the gate. It swung. A deep boom rumbled through the city like thunder running in the clouds. But the doors of iron and posts of steel withstood the stroke. Then the black captain rose in his stirrups and cried aloud in a dreadful voice, speaking in some forgotten tongue, words of power and terror to rend both heart and stone. Thrice he cried, thrice the great ram boomed, and suddenly upon the last stroke, the gate of Gondor broke. As if stricken by some blasting spell, it burst asunder. There was a flash of searing lightning, and the doors tumbled in riven fragments to the ground. Now, a fairly common question I get is, could these two items which share a name be one and the same? While no doubt the idea of Morgoth being so gargantuan that he could wield a battering ram as a mace is awe-inspiring, these are certainly separate items. Drawing our attention to the later quote from the Siege of Gondor, which says, "Grond they named it, in memory of the hammer of the underworld of old," and also the portion that tells us it was forged in Mordor. In my mind, this makes it pretty clear that this is a separate thing altogether. Fierce in its own right, but definitely not the Mace of Morgoth. Ironically, we don't know the final fate of either of these items. Morgoth is defeated and captured at the end of the First Age, and there's no mention of his weaponry at that time. It's possible that it lies buried beneath the sea, along with Angband and the rest of Beleriand. As for Grond of the Third Age, there's no mention of it after it succeeds in breaching the Great Gate of Minas Tirith. One would imagine that it'd be pretty unlikely that the battering ram would have somehow survived the destruction of Sauron's armies on the Pelennor. Personally, I believe that in all likelihood, Grond would have been dismantled and destroyed by the Gondorians in the days after the War of the Ring, leaving Middle-earth with one less reminder of the dark days that had come long before. Now, if you want a unique reminder of the world you love, you'll get just that from lordofmaps.com. Their maps are originally hand-drawn by the artist and feature states and countries from all over the world in an incredible fantasy style. And right now, if you use the code NERDOFMAPS, you'll save 15% off your order. So check out lordofmaps.com. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil 19, Listen Me the Cinda, Mandu Pandu, Andrew Carlisle, The Mighty Mim, Team Weasel, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Salim Rahman, Zetrock, Berto Berg, Grand Strategy Nerd, Graham Darricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Michael Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description and purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.